Hey everybody, Chris here from It's Mead Made, and I am here to continue my series on how to paint 3D prints. Through this series, we have done numerous things. I have taught you in the first video how I prime my 3D prints. The second video, I went ahead and showed you how I watered down my acrylic paints, my cheap hobby paints. Then I also explained in that video how I do my color blocking. And then my last video, I explained an ink wash and how I make my own ink wash and what I do with it and how I use my ink wash. So this is the model as of right now, because we've been using the same model step by step along the way. And this is what it looks like after the ink wash. So there are some nice definition in the mouth and the teeth especially. So if we kind of go in, you can see his teeth now, and his eyes have a nice gradation across them. So because I haven't done the pupils yet. And then we've got some nice shadowing and definition throughout his muscles. So now I'm going to explain how to bring out some of the detail of like the veins in his chest and the highlighted areas to really make him pop. This video is solely going to be on dry brush techniques and dry brushing and how I do my dry brushing. So the first thing is the tools I use for dry brushing. Surprisingly enough, I use makeup brushes. I actually got these at the dollar store, and then I got this set at Odd Lots. I actually have just gotten new brushes because my other ones went bad. So the thing about using makeup brushes, after you're done using these, you're never going to get the paint out of them. So like you can see how beautiful and pretty these look. After I'm done using these, they are not going to be. They're going to basically look green, and you're not going to be able to get the dye out of them. So you just got to keep washing them and washing them as good as you can. But ultimately, over time, they do get bad, just like a regular paintbrush. And so all I do is just throw these out, and then I go get some more. These were each $1, and I think this set for 5 of them was $8, and it was at Odd Lots. Just because I like these because they have a bunch of different sizes, and the actual brand of these Eco Tools, I think it is, they are a little more expensive than the typical dollar store brands, but they hold up a little better, I found. So I just like these a lot because they're natural bristles. So what you first want to do is you kind of want to select your different brushes. So what I'm going to probably be using for this is these two brushes. I just wanted to show you different sizes and what they look like. If you're a guy like me, makeup brushes are a mystery sometimes. I don't know what they're all used for, besides painting your face, but we're going to be painting models with it. So I'm just going to set this aside. And I'll be using these two primarily. So this will be in the face to get the details around the face, and then this will be the general body. So when you're dry brushing, you can go one of two ways. So if you want to dirty up your model and make it look like really gritty and things like that, you'll go a lot darker. But if you want to bring out a lot of the detail of the model, you're going to go a whole lot brighter. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to go more comic route, because I was asking my followers on Instagram, should I go more realistic or more comic book? And it was a landslide vote of comic. So I am going to be going more comic book like. And I've actually did a test. I did a test of a failed print I had, power outage on him just a few hours into it. So I am going to make him more comic book looking. So the nice thing about if you ever have a failed print, you always want to save them so you can do test paints on them and see which one you're going to like better. So like I was on the fence of should I go darker or lighter. So I'm going to be going a lot lighter and bring out a lot of the definition with a lighter color. So what I'm going to be using is this Irish Moss from Americana. It's just an acrylic paint. This was literally 99 cents. And what I'm going to do is first shake it up. And there's two ways of doing this. You can either put this in a little paint palette if you want, or what you can do is just get a paper towel and put it directly on a paper towel. So the technique, just a general overview of the technique of how we're going to do this, is we're going to get pigment and paint on this brush, and then what I'm going to do is brush it away. So I'm going to get as much paint off as I can, so there's such a small amount of paint. When I'm brushing on here, it's going to just be picking up barely on the model with the highlights. So we're going to be going back and forth quite a bit. And I'll start to show you how the highlights are really brought out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and directly just put this right on my paper towel. So there we go. And the first thing I'm going to be covering is the general body, and I'm going to get that going really well, and then I'm going to move on to the face by using this smaller brush. So first I'm just going to get my brush covered in paint. So we're going to just swirl it around, get it really nice. Make sure that the bristles are saturated, and you can see there. And then what I'm going to do is start going down and removing the paint from the brush. This might take you multiple pieces of paper towel as you're going through this process. So sometimes I'll actually just test it on my hand so I can see just a tiny bit right there. And now we're just going to go through here. So you can kind of see there's veins on his chest, and what I'm really going to be doing is try to get these veins and to pop out. I want to get the abs. I want the basically the top portions of the model to have this lighter, bright, comic look color. And the thing you can think about is when you're ink washing, you're getting the cracks in the valleys, and when you're dry brushing, you're getting the top, the points of the model. So now that I've got this good, I'm going to just kind of go back and forth on this. And sometimes you're going to find right when you start, you might need to get more off. And I'm just going to be feathering this. And I'm not putting a lot of pressure. I'm just basically rubbing this right on top. So I think I've still got a little too much paint. I'm just kind of going back and forth with it. So I don't want to push hard and get in the cracks, because what I'm really wanting is I just want to get the ridges, the top portions of this model. And the unfortunate part sometimes when you're doing this with a 3D print, it's going to bring out those layer lines a little more than you want, but that's okay. It is a 3D print. Sometimes when you're doing this, you're going to find that, you know what, like overall it's going to look really nice, and you don't really have to worry about if you see layer lines. So now you can kind of see this side versus this side, like how you're starting to see the muscle tone a lot better. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just stay right here on this paint since this is saturated, and I'm going to kind of flip this over, keep going on it. So I'm just kind of keep going over the same areas, especially where I want to get that contact. So like the highlight areas. And it also depends on how you're wanting this to look, because sometimes you only want to get certain areas, like maybe just the top portion of the model to get that highlight. But I'm wanting generally the whole thing to have that texture. so it's darker in the cracks and brighter up top. So I'm going to go ahead and add more here. I'm going to add a little more paint to this. Saturate the brush. And then I'm just going to remove it. And I'm kind of turning my brush as I'm going to like make sure that I'm removing a lot of the paint, because that's the key here. You don't want a ton of paint. You want to be able to bring out all of the highlights slowly. Because if you have too much paint on it, you're going to bring it all out too fast. So see, here we go. You can see a lot of those veins now are showing up. It's really getting what we want. So I'm just being very controlled, even though it looks like I'm a little crazy with it. I'm pushing in the right spots, so I'm making sure I hit over it. Then try to get the neck here. And then you'll see if you just stay in one spot for a little while, it'll just lightly start brightening up a little bit and a little bit. So you can kind of see there, it's really starting to highlight now. So I want to get some of those neck muscles highlighted. And there we go. And this is really the entire technique. You're just going to keep doing this over and over. So if you look at the stomach now, or the chest, I've got a lot of nice definition here, but then it's darker in certain spots. Like I can get underneath the neck. I don't want to really focus too much on the face right now because I'm going to get a smaller brush when I do that. But I want to get some of this main area. So now you can kind of see I'm doing this a lot, and I'm not getting any more paint. So that just means it's time to switch and get another paper towel. So get another paper towel, and I'm just going to drop a little more paint on there. Swirl, make sure we're getting enough paint, and then do it all over again. And if you're wanting it really heavy in some areas, you can actually make sure you stop when you're getting it to about this point. So if you want it to get a lot on there, you just leave more paint on it. But dry brush really does work out a lot better if you just kind of take your time with it. So just fanning it around, trying to get some of that definition on his muscles. And for a simple model like this, I'm just using one color, but you can actually use multiple colors. Like, it's just really the technique I'm trying to show you here. Because you can see how it's bringing out the veins. Okay, so on the cheeks, I'm probably just gonna use this bigger brush since it's pretty easy to get to. I want to stay away from some of the crucial areas. So there we go. Now we're kind of going through here. I'm just going to look to see if I'm missing any areas. There's some areas right here I want to hit a little more to get some more muscle definition. And there we go. So that's pretty much everything I want to do on the main skin as of right now. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash this brush as good as I can. And like I said, you're never going to get these things as clean as you physically can. So you just kind of do your best. And these will last a good while. I'm not trying to scare you and make you think that, you know, after 1 or 2 uses it's done. But really, I'm just trying to get as much of the pigment off as I can. But over time, it's going to happen. And probably the big thing to know, if you're using a metallic paint and you're using that as a dry brush, I tell you what, metallic paints destroy brushes really quick, so you might want to have a special one just for metallic paints, maybe an older brush that you've used a bunch of times. All right, so there we go. Like, as you can see, it's got a little bit of a green tint, but for the first time using it, it's pretty good. Okay, so I've made a mess. I'm gonna go ahead and clean this up. That's why it's great to have a silicone pad. Okay, so now I am going to get the face, and what I'm going to use is this smaller brush. That way I can get a little more control in there, because I'm going to get the nose, around the lips, and the eyebrows. I want to be a little careful around the eyebrows, just for the sheer fact that I don't want to repaint them. But if I have to, I will. Don't be afraid to do that. Trying to get some of those facial wrinkles to really have some good definition. Nose, and it looks like I'm probably, just because I really want some of that definition in the skin, I'm going to have to repaint some of the eyebrows. And see, that's the thing about painting, just don't be afraid to go back over stuff. Like, it doesn't, there's no reason to be afraid of it. Get the ears. The ears are pretty easy to get without hitting everything. There we go. Yeah. That's why it's good to have a smaller brush to have more control, because those bigger brushes are hard. So if you notice, I'm going up and trying to avoid the teeth, because I don't want to mess those up in any way. And then I'm going to get the chin. And there we go. So now that gave us a lot of good dark colors in the cracks of the mouth, but like on the cheekbones and stuff like that, we got a lot of good highlights. The eyes are looking awesome. So I'm just going to have to go back over the eyebrows right there, which isn't a problem, because what I'm also going to be doing is I'm going to do a dry brush of just the hair, and what I'm going to be using is this really dark hunter green. So this hunter green is super dark, and I'm going to give it just a little bit of green tinge to this hair, and I think it's really going to draw it out. So first I'm going to go ahead and clean my brush, and then I'm going to add the dry brush to the top of the hair. So I'm done with this paper towel. You can kind of see how you start going through a lot of paper towels to do this. But what I'm going to do now is focus on the hair. And the last part after that is I'm just going to have a little bit of detailing to do, and then he's going to be done. So there we go. Okay, so same thing, just going to go over the top of this. And really what this is going to do is just kind of on the tops of the hairs, give a little bit of definition and give it a green tinge. Just because, you know, Hulk's hair is sometimes red or green in the comics. So I'm going to just keep going like that. And this is one of those things that it might not pick up in photos and things like that, but when you're actually looking at it in light, you're going to be able to see that little bit just kind of come out, and it's going to look really nice. And I'm not really focused on any one spot particular. Just want to have some green, so I might actually want a little bit more. So I'm going to just squeeze a little bit more. Not a lot. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is go ahead and bring those eyebrows back with some of that wrought iron paint that I used. And then I've got to add the eyes. And the last part is the base, and I'll probably make a separate video on me just painting the base and kind of explain some of the things that I want to do with it. But that is pretty much it. So I'll do a quick time lapse here so you can kind of see it until we get to the very end and see the final result. Okay, so that is it. Hulk is fully painted. You can see I went ahead and painted inside his eyes. I actually used this tilt or color shift metallic paint. It's just a cool, you know, metallic green. So I thought that would look really good for a gamma looking green. Then I used a gloss black. I'm a huge fan of gloss black for pupils, and I went ahead and did that. Did a little bit of the detail back into the eyebrows, and one thing I did do is I took a medium gray and kind of highlighted just the edges of his hair to kind of bring that out a little bit too. So he is pretty much done. Now all I have left is I'm going to blacken the edges here and here because I want it to look nice and clean, and then I have to finish this. But for the most part, that is how you dry brush. I hope this tutorial has helped you. If you have any questions, please leave a comment below, and if you want to see other things in this series that you might have missed, where I cover, you know, how to block your colors, how to thin down your paints, the primer, and how to prime your models, and also ink washes. If you like what you've seen, please don't forget to hit subscribe. And please check out the next video where I just do the base and trying to apply all the different types of techniques to that.